What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Champion Living Podcast, the only podcast crossing the lines between the sport of rodeo and fitness. Today's episode, we have a very special guest, six-time world champion bareback rider, 13-time NFR qualifier, the one and only Kaycee Field. We're diving in right now. This episode is brought to you by PWR PRO CBD. We have recently started an awesome partnership with them. They have everything from warming creams to tinctures and dog treats, all of the above. High-quality CBD products for you, your pets, and I got to say, I've been a huge fan of the warming cream for a long time. You can check them out at PWR PWRPro.com. Use our discount code ChampionLiving. Going to save you a little bit at checkout. Everywhere, man.
Yep.
Logan, where are you at? You're in Illinois?
Illinois.
With the southern part of Illinois, not Chicago.
Yeah, not Chicago. We have to clarify there. Like, everybody says Illinois and they think Chicago, but I'm like a good 7 hours south of there. So I say Southern Illinois, and then people usually are like, "Well, there's not a Southern," and come live here, and then tell me there's not a Southern in Northern Illinois.
Paul's in northern Arkansas, Mountain Home. Tyler's over in Colorado. This is Tyler's first day on the show with us. We've been talking about adding another role where it's more or less him just checking our BS that we spit out of our mouths. So he's like fact checking.
He's a fact checker
to make sure we don't get in trouble. But no, we're all over here, man. And then you're in Utah, hey?
Beautiful Utah, yeah.
Beautiful Utah, man. I gotta agree, it is beautiful Utah. I don't think I'd ever really driven through there in the winter and getting to come down last week. I was taking videos the whole drive of the mountains. They were beautiful, man. That place is really cool.
Yeah, man. You need to come and spend more time down here.
I'll have to agree with that. I had to have a conversation, about an hour combo with Mason on the way home, because he's like, "You didn't call me when you came down." I said, "I'm so sorry. I forgot you lived down there. My bad. My bad."
I thought we invited him to lunch.
We did, and then he's dadding, man. He's full-time dadding. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, it was good. It was good stuff, man. We're gonna talk about that today, but thanks again for coming on the show, bro. We're fired up to have you on, and we mentioned possibly doing an episode with you like a couple weeks back, and have had just nonstop people asking, "When's that episode happening? When's he gonna be on the show?" It's like, yeah, we're trying. We're trying. Yeah, we're excited, and I think all of our listeners are excited to hear from you and kind of just touch on everything, man. This is kind of a cool deal because you have just wrapped up an incredible career as a bareback rider. I would say, honestly, probably the best career to date of bareback riders, which is unreal. You said a lot of, man, you just opened so many doors for rodeo athletes, and I know growing up and when I was coming up as a bareback rider, you were someone I looked up to in a big way about how to develop my riding. I remember just watching ride after ride, like, how is he doing this? How do I figure out how to break each step down? I think everyone's probably got that person they watch when they're coming up, but you were the dude I watch all the time, man. So it's kind of cool to chat with you about this and about how you're so successful, maybe some of the things that didn't go well, but in this episode or on this podcast, we're all about fitness and rodeo, man. So just like, let's kick it off. What do you fitness for you when you, as a rodeo athlete, from the beginning to the end? Is it something you did the entire time? Is it something that you started implementing as you were progressing as an athlete, started realizing, hey, I might want to make a living at this? How did fitness come into your world?
Yeah, so appreciate the nice comments at the beginning of the question there. Doug, appreciate it. It doesn't feel like that long ago that we first met. But we don't want to go down that rabbit hole, but when I first started rodeo, and I was focused, I was determined. I rode the spur board. I did push-ups and sit-ups. And then started about my college years, doing a little more, going to the gym and doing some leg extensions and maybe some presses, and looking around more than actually doing the work. and then I had the opportunity to go to the Middle East in 2010 for the first time with the Wrangler National Patriot Tour. And I got to wake up every morning and train with uh, Green Beret or SEALs teams. And those guys, their mentality is just like the guys behind the buck and shoots. All of my competitors and friends, like they're in the gym working out, talking about what they're about to go and face. And it was eye opening to me that these guys' mentality was the exact same as mine, but their discipline to win was just different. And so
Mm.
I learned a lot about myself and about respecting others on that first tour. Those guys were getting ready to go kill or be killed, and it was Memorial Day. We were sitting on the tarmac and having a little ceremony, and it paused, and we're sitting there for probably 30 or 40 minutes, and a Black Hawk come in and landed, and they take a casket off of this Black Hawk, and right there on the tarmac, and there's a buddy crying over this casket, and it's like, man, that could be like me and Tilden, or that could be me and my brother. And then working out and understanding that these guys are going out and preparing for something very ugly, and that all I'm doing at home is push-ups and sit-ups. Like,
Hmm.
these guys are facing something that's going to change their lives forever, and I get to go home and get to do something that I absolutely love and enjoy, and like show off a talent in front of a crowd and feel that energy. And so I did a lot of growing up in that first year going over to the Middle East. I gained a lot of respect for our military and our armed forces. But it was that's when I started training with a purpose. Is probably about 2010, and coming home off of that tour. And first week back, I landed at like, I don't know, 4 in the morning. Drove to Sisters, Oregon, rode, drove over to Union that evening and rode, and then drove all night down to Sisters, Oregon. And I had witch doctor, and she flipped over in the chute and broke my arm. And I was I was very that was probably one of the harder trials in my career that I had, just because I felt like God, like, what the heck, man? I go over to the Middle East and miss a week of rodeo, and I'm wanting to win a world title. I believe in myself more than I ever have, and I break my arm after going and doing a good deed. Like, what the heck, man?
Mhm.
But it was meant to be. It was meant to be that I come home from that tour, and I needed to stay home and soak on what I learned on that tour. And um, that's when I got the desire to really push myself physically
Man, that is so cool.
and
It's always
prepare for purpose.
yeah, yeah, with purpose. And I think there's a lot of things you mentioned right there. I think, or I know that I can resonate with. I'm sure young bareback, bronc, rough stock, any athlete can resonate with going into the gym and not really knowing what to do. And you said, I did more looking than I did working. And that was probably my first couple of years in the gym. Is it was just a little overwhelming and not knowing where to start, what to do. And then for you to get to go experience something like that in the Middle East and be surrounded by, man, it's just a level up. Like those guys are, in a sense, you guys are preparing for something that's not, can be ugly as well, not anything compared to that, but you also, and there's percentages of you laying your life on the line for sure in what we do. So you to come to that realization, looking at those guys saying like, dude, I'm not doing exactly what they're doing, but I am doing something as intense, and I'm not even coming close to the preparation that they are putting in. So to realize that, almost selling yourself short there, and I could be getting so much more out of what I'm doing, and putting so much more into my purpose here, which is, I think you were meant to be a cowboy and help cowboys be better and help the sport and help people be better. But um it's what a cool experience, man, and what a just an eye opener. It's so cool.
It was cool. And then on that tour, I got to meet a lot of people, and one of them was the trainer of the SEAL teams, and then the Green Berets for the Brits. And he comes to Utah and trains the U.S. ski team. So break my arm and happened go and train with the U.S. ski team up in Park City, and this guy was 60 years old and like just rolling around on the ground doing all these crazy moves and just mobile as all get out, and he can whoop my butt. He's more flexible than me. Like it was pretty crazy, and just the opportunities and that come from that tour, and the things that I learned and the things that it teed me up for were impressive. And uh you hit the nail on the head. Like bareback riding, it can be ugly. I guess it is ugly every time. Like very rarely do you get off a bareback horse and you don't feel like a groin being tight or an elbow being sore. There's certain times that you know, it for dang sure can be ugly. And if you don't take care of yourself, just like those guys, if they're not to their top of their ability physically or mentally, when they go out, they're gonna be shot. Like that in Chris Kyle's movie, that guy writes his letter. He pretty much wrote his own destiny. The next day they go out to battle, and he gets killed, and he had some negative thoughts. He doubted himself. And so it's just like bareback riding. As soon as you think in that 8 seconds, you're that thought's probably going to have some repercussions behind it. You're going to feel it
Mhm.
a little more than anything else, and it's pretty unique when you start comparing the two disciplines and the mental toughness that it takes. I'm not saying that I could go out and go kill people or be shot at and not be scared to death, but bareback riding, you have to push fear to the side and
Mhm.
go at it as hard as you possibly can for the whole 8 seconds.
Yeah, I'd say they're very comparable in that sense. I think that I don't know this. I know a lot of guys that have served and gone to war and done things like that. I'd imagine that there's a little fear in everybody when that happens, just in the same sense of I don't know about you guys, but I've definitely been a little scared getting on bucking horses before. But the way that people use that fear, right? You can either use it to fight and get tougher and do it better, or you can be crippled by it and it can
Mhm.
not serve you in any way. So rodeo athletes, rough stock athletes are in that same sense. I love that you say you have to react because that's what all this is there's no thinking in this. It's just doing when we get to the actual thing. And that's where all the training and preparation comes in and training with a purpose. That's why that's so important because if we're not purposefully training what we're going to be reacting to, we're only setting up bad reactions.
Mhm.
So when we get out there, it's just not going to go well. And we see that a lot, especially, we've been doing a lot of these schools, a lot of these optimal performance academies. And even before that, you get kids that show up to the school that have been on a lot of horses, but the second you put them on a spur board, it's like, dude, what the heck's going on? Like, I thought you said you'd been on a horse before. And it's just because of the multiple bad reps over time, the not practicing with that purpose. They're practicing with the goal of like recreating an intensity on the spur board that you're going to get on that bucking horse. I need to spur this thing as hard and as fast as I can. And it just usually looks very discombobulated when in a sense we need to slow everything down and really focus on the proper mechanics. Something I know that was instilled in you at a young age. So growing up with your dad being who he was, an absolute legend as well, what was that like
Thank you.
getting the mechanics down? How did he set you up for that? And what would you say to get young guys just getting started when it comes to, workouts and the spur board, like the actual purpose of that?
Well, I like that you. My daughter's leaving for school. Sorry, but I like that you're talking about the spur board as much as you are. Uh, that's the number one tool throughout my whole career. That's the thing that when I was in a slump, I spent the most time on. Muscle memory. Um, my spur stroke on my spur board is extremely fast and extremely aggressive. But when I set my feet, I take a breath and close my eyes, and I put myself there mentally. I put myself at the NFR. I put myself in the yellow button shoe. I vividly dream of being in those situations and feeling the pressure and getting familiar with that space. Um, Growing up with the dad that I did, I was very fortunate to have him as long as I did. And, I didn't even realize what he had done and accomplished until I went out and started rodeoing full time. He he made the NFR 13 times in the bareback ride and 10 times in the bronc riding, and it was now going to the NFR 13 times in the bareback ride, and I can't imagine doing it in the bronc riding at the same time 10 of those years. And he never ever once talked about his career. He never talked about I rode this horse for 90 points. He was always just dad. And so I think his humility and when it came time to coach me is honestly one of the things that shaped who I am. He didn't try to push me and say, "Hey, if you're going to be a bareback rider, it's got to be this way." There's never an ultimatum. It was, "Yeah, you want to do it? Let's do it." Okay, yeah, okay, I can help you, but you got to do this on your own. You got to do this on your own. I can't get on this bareback horse for you. And the way that I was raised, I rode the spur board, and before I could get on a real bucking horse, I had to spur that spur board 100 times perfectly without letting my upper body move or anything like that. And it took a long time, probably from when I was 9 years old to 11 or 12 years old. And then I had the same horse from when I was 11 or 12 years old until I was 16. I'd get on that horse twice on Tuesday and twice on Thursday. And he'd probably get this high in the front end and maybe this high in the back end. If I got a little bit out of shape, he would stop. Uh, and muscle memory, I did it over and over and over. And I begged to go to high school rodeos. I begged to go to, amateur rodeos. And I see a lot of kids that are my age and going and kicking butt. Steve Woolsey was one of my best friends growing up. And when he turned 18, he was the richest rookie ever. He won $450,000. And I'm still getting on old Humpty Dumpty and Bay Rum back at the ranch. My dad won't even let me go play. Like I was begging to go. And this is actually a funny story. The news. So my dad was a college rodeo coach for Utah Valley University. They practiced every Thursday. Uh, the Channel 5 news was coming, and Rod Zundell, the sports broadcaster, was kind of a big deal in Utah, and they were coming to do a little story on my dad's team. And finally, I spurred Bayram for 2 weeks in a row, and I'm like, "Dad, you got to let me get on Humpty Dumpty, please." He's like, "No, you're not ready." And we rode over in the big semi together to practice, and I begged and begged and begged. And Humpty Dumpty come in the alley, and so I just threw my rigging on, and he comes over, and he's like, "You're not ready." And I was like, "Yeah, I am. Just let me do this." He's like, "All right, strong mark out." Same thing like Bayram. I'm like, "All right, sounds good." He was an asshole in the chute, kind of bust around for a second, and then left there and two jumped me and landed flat on my back. And my dad, he was picking up and looked down at him. He's like, "Aren't you glad the cameras are here?" And that's right.
Oh,
So
that's awesome.
yeah, so it was a little humbling experience, and I stuck to Bay Run for a few more months. And then,
Yeah.
but the fundamentals, it was what was so important that he's seen in other people's lives and other other competitors' careers and what they go through. And I had the basics down so solid that when I went to go and rodeo full time, all I had to do was critique my style and stay physically and mentally tough. The basics were hammered in. The muscle memory was there, and so uh, just fine tune things on the spur board, and then when you go to the rodeo, you're 100% in yourself and you're 100% in your body. Then you
Man,
don't have any second thoughts.
Yeah.
Kaycee, there's so much that we can unpack from that right there, but I want to go back to something that you said towards the beginning. You were talking about being on the spur board and that being one of the most important tools, and then you kind of very briefly hinted on visualization. How important was visualization in your process? Maybe it didn't start when you were young, getting on the one or two horses, but maybe you adopted it later in your career. Like, what role has that played, and how important has that been in your career?
I got something to add to that. Because I had the same question. And how did you start that? Because visualization is really hard to start in the beginning, in my eyes, at least when I started beginning. How did you start implementing a practice with that? Was it one more jump you're trying to visualize, or how were you getting a little further in that ride?
You know, I think it was what started my dreaming, what started my visualization was believing in myself. It I was from 2007 to 2010 is when I was just going to rodeo to make the NFR. It was like I didn't have any real goal. My goal was to make the NFR, and then after that, it was like nothing. And so, um, 2010 and 11. Well, 2010 is when it clicked for me. Right at the begin at the NFR '09, and then I went to some amateur like open rodeos in Denver and Fort Worth, San Antone. It's the year that I had brother in San Antone was '93. Uh, and that little period, that 2 to 3 month period, um, is when I really started believing in myself and believing that I could be a world champion. And so, um, I wouldn't say that I started studying other athletes, but there was like with Winning in Mind by Lanny Bassam, that book comes to mind. Um, Ty Murray has a good book. Nolan Ryan, Michael Jordan, and the way those guys talked about the game, no one was doing it in the bareback riding, and so I would try to bring it up to people and other bareback riders, and they wouldn't really want to conversate with me. And then I started talking to my dad about it. He's like, "Well, yeah, just get your favorite pitchers and start dreaming it like those guys. Those guys watch videos as teams, and they look at playbooks and dream of being in those situations and catching the ball and slam dunking it with zero on the clock. Like you got to dream of those situations." And so I had a ton of VHSs and burned them up, and then the DVDs and like the little laptop thing we would put on the
Oh
van
yeah.
dash. So, and then I would only buy the pictures of myself that were picture perfect. I'd sit at Dan Hubble's little photo booth there for a long, long time, looking at the horses, looking at other guys' body position, how the horse is landing when he's kicking this way, what his shoulders are doing when he's in the left lead, what's your rigging doing? I was breaking it down and studying not just myself, but everybody's pictures. And if I had my cowboy hat on and I looked picture perfect, I'd buy it. And I'd put that in my photo album when I get home. And I have probably two or three ring binders that are some of my favorite pictures. Maybe they're not the most photogenic, but the way that the horse was bucking, the way that I had dreamed it before, I like to buy those pictures. Um, and videos, you can't do enough of watching videos and the people that you like. Like I said, I had to watch DVDs or VHSs growing up, and now these guys can stand on the back of the bucking chutes and watch YouTube videos and how-to videos. Like the sky's the limit on how you can study the game now. And another way I'd work at it. I'm sharing all my secrets too now that I'm retired. But so no, I'd get on a saddle horse, a broke horse, and just hold my feet in the horse's neck and hold a perfect upper body and put a log or something in the arena and let him jump it and hold perfect position and dream of the horse is only getting this high, just like Bay Rum, and maybe this high in the back, and he's loping, and I'm feeling what that horse is doing. And then I'm dreaming of, you know, a night crawler getting 4 feet in the air and kicking over her head. That's what I am dreaming of. Why the horse is getting 2 inches, but in my head I'm actually 2 feet. I'm on a big bad bay horse that's mean and ranker than hell. Um, that's it's hard to get in the flow state. What I like to call the flow state when I get ready to ride, everything goes mute. Nothing. There's no distractions, and so to get into that state of mind at home when you don't have adrenaline, you don't have any, um, added fuel to the fire, and so to put yourself in that situation mentally, um, you know, it probably looks strange to a lot of people. It probably, you know, outsider looking in probably doesn't look like you're doing much. But the things that I accomplished in my own arena, or even going up a trail, riding a horse, those were some of my purest thoughts when it comes to bareback riding, was being on a horse and just dreaming it, going back over my photo albums in my head. We're watching Cody Jesse from the 2004 NFR, click him off the top of his handle on spring fling, like Bobby Mode on spring fling in 2008 or 9, like the rankest horses, the meanest horses that nobody else could spur. I'm dreaming of spurring them. I'm dreaming of winning the American. Like, I'm dreaming of winning Calgary. Even Pleasant Grove, I'm dreaming of being there. I write those rodeos down that are coming up in the next month and dream each one. You know, it's, you got to be there before you ever get there to be good, in my opinion.
That's so important. So important. We talk about this a lot throughout our camps, throughout this podcast. Visualization is huge. And it is one of those, it's a daunting thing, I think, for a lot of people to start, because it is kind of one of those hippy dippy sounding things. But man, when you talk about visualizing yourself spurring the biggest, baddest thing there, Richie was a huge proponent of that when we were learning how to ride bucking horses. I'll never forget, man. Well, first of all, I've told this story before, I think, but Richie used to ride bulls, and he was a He used to get on bulls. He was not a very good bull rider, but the kid was like an incredible horseman. He knew how to ride a horse. He'd been on horseback since he was a 3-year-old. Was a world champion mounted shooter. You knew that, and one day we're going to a rodeo, and I said, Richie, I love you, but if you buck off this bull tomorrow, you're going to church and you're getting on a bucking horse. And he's like, deal. And I've been working on him for months over this. He just wouldn't do it. He gets, lawn darted at the gate. He gets up and looks at me. I said, yep, we're going to church tomorrow. So I get him on this first horse, and dude, this thing, just like what you're talking about, like jumps that far off the ground, maybe kicks that high, and to add that, she pisses all over you while she does it. So it was hilarious. But he spurs this little thing, and ever since then, I remember his 10th or 15th horse. I wake up one morning, I walk over to his bed, we're going to do something. And he's like, dude, I couldn't sleep last night. I was like, what's going on? He goes, I laid in bed all night visualizing myself making the buzzer on a horse, and it took me an hour to make the buzzer because I bucked myself off. I stopped in the middle of it and it just went blank, like whatever it was. He did it until he finally could see that full ride. But it's something kind of cool to think about that he was doing at a young age, and it obviously has helped him in his career. But to hear you talking about that is just so important to visualize. And yeah, hearing Richie get pissed on is actually hilarious. That's what I think about it. I wish I had video of it.
Well, something that Kaycee is talking about that's a little bit unique is like he's pairing his visualization with positive, like, affirmation. So like he's visualizing something much greater than what he's doing physically, but he's pairing something physically with it. So like, getting on a horse that's jumping over a log, but visualizing it being a lot more intense than that. I think that's probably huge. And with the photo album too that you have of all these affirmation pictures of yourself, like you're just stacking this positive reinforcement of in your own skill and in your own belief. And I feel like most people aren't willing to do that, and it's so easy to do it. I mean, it probably wasn't difficult to pick out pictures of yourself, or it probably wasn't difficult to go get on a horse that jumps over a log. It's just the consistency and the repetition and all of that has helped build you into what you are.
It's consistency and discipline. With consistency and discipline, I feel like you can achieve anything. If you're disciplined to believe in yourself, and you're disciplined to do what it takes to be the best, and resiliency, I think you can do anything. You can accomplish anything. That's what I tell these kids at these schools that I've been doing lately, is like, guys, before you ever get here, you've got to understand that you can do this. Anybody can do it. You're already doing something extremely brave. there's not very in the 1%. How many of the 1% even try to get on a rough stock animal? Not even, point or 0.0001.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you're doing something so brave. You're doing something courageous. You're amazing. You're a tough kid. You're going to be successful at whatever you're up against in life. If you have discipline to do this bareback right and you give it your all, no matter the results, like you'll be able to go and do whatever life challenges throwing at you. You'll be able to, nod at them and go at them with aggression or a thought out plan and accomplish it. The things that you learn from a rough stock rider and having faith in yourself, if you model that to life, you can be successful whatever you have the discipline and the determination to do. And so the bareback riding and those little workouts and tools that I used, it was to you know do more than the next guy. It was to I am better than anybody else. I would never say this to anybody, but I am telling myself that I am the best. I am going to work harder than anybody else. No one can keep up to me. No one has the tricks that I have. I am the best. I'm a winner at every aspect in the bareback riding. When I put my gear bag down behind the buck and shoots, no 15 bareback riders right there have even done a third of what I've done. Ty Murray was always big on re-rides. Like you get on a re-ride no matter what. And so I had the mentality of I could go to the NFR and get on a re-ride every night and get to the 10th round and get on 10 re-rides and ride the 10th one as strong as I did the very first one on day one. And that mentality to think that big, to think re-ride every 10 nights and then get on 10 horses in the 10th night. I've been dreaming of the toughest situations for a long time. It used to be one re-ride at the NFR. It used to be 2 re-rides at the NFR. Screw that. I'll go 10 for 10. I'll go 30 fucking horses in 10 days. Like no one can hold a candlestick to me. Like I'm putting my gear back down and I mean authority when I show up. And then it comes from when I go out and it's 8 o'clock in the morning and the sun's coming up and getting on a bareback horse that's broke, I'm getting on a big bad son of a bee. No one's up yet. They might be in the gym, but no one's on the animal and dreaming of being the best like I am right now. Like, yeah, I would tell myself that hundreds of times a day, and I would sign my name hundreds of times a day. I remember I was working at the parts department at a Polaris store. Oh, it was probably like 2003 as a senior in high school, and I was signing my name and signing my name. And this lady's like, "Why are you signing your autograph so much?" I'm like, well, I really don't know, but it's going to be worth something someday. I'm going to be a world champion someday. And she kind of gave me this look like, whatever, dude, you're working at a parts department. That right there was like, she's doubting me. Like that was a moment in my life that was like, I'm going to show her. I mean, I'm 34 years or 37 years old. That was when I was 15 years old. And that.
Yeah. That's such a cool thing, man. You believe
You have to be tough. You have to be mentally tough.
You got to be. Absolutely. And hey, that's actually something I want to talk about now, and mental toughness. I mean, we talked about earlier, these athletes, us rough stock riders, rodeo cowboys and cowgirls, I think personally they're successful whatever they do because we're the best at overcoming adversity, because you have to do that on a day-to-day basis going down the road, depending from the different draws to the different arenas to travel complications. Like who knows, all of the above are going to happen to you, and you're going to have to overcome it and make the best of it. And rodeo does a really good job of teaching you how to do that. And if it doesn't, you won't rodeo very long. But it takes a lot, it takes a lot of toughness and mental toughness to do this. My biggest question for you when it comes to mental toughness is, after that first year of being really successful, whether it's making your first NFR or it could be even the circuit finals, but make your first NFR or even you won your first world title. We talked with Ty a few episodes back, Ty Murray, and he was talking about the sophomore slump. And we were talked about this a few times on the show, but you win this first world title, and then you see a lot of, not you in particular, but other people, other athletes, that second year after, a lot of times is they would mark it as a failure, right? They didn't come even close to what they were capable of, and a lot of that I believe is due to just the mental pressure they put on themselves of what they feel everybody is expecting of them. They need to, do this harder, do this better, whatever it is. Maybe over trying. How did you avoid that? How did you continue to stay consistent in dominating what you were doing and resilient in those times where maybe things weren't going right? Because I know there's times during the season that you had to have, not drawing well, not getting a score well, whatever it is, where you're like, what the heck? Like, what? I'm F this. Like, I'm going home. This is stupid. How do you keep going? Because every athlete's going to go through that if you want to do this, at an elite level.
For sure. And the distractions are a real thing. There's, travel there, like you said, there's so many things that come into play to actually get to the rodeo and have a clear mind and still believe in yourself. Um, I had big goals from a very young age. When I won my first world title, it was one of those moments of like, yeah, this is great. This is fun. I appreciate it so much. But I've yet to defy who I am. I've yet to. I can push myself harder than I did last year. I felt like I gave it my all, but the things that I learned and the tools that I figured out with experience, that experience is just going to compound. Um, that I think that's one of the biggest things for me is believing in my experiences and knowing that they happen for a reason and they are to make you better. That's something too, is like injuries, friends passing, people important in your life passing away, um, failing at business, whatever. There is going to be some heavy distractions that feel like that everything is pulling you away from your ultimate goal. But you got to have little goals to get to the big goals. And when you cross off little goals, treat that as a Calgary win. Getting up and taking care of the most important emails or the most important phone calls. Cross the goals off the to-do list and reward yourself. Um, Build yourself up that you did something good. um, that was instilled in us, me and my brother and my sister, from a very young age. Like, you don't say can't, and you believe in yourself. God wants good for you. The people that you've surrounded yourself by, they want good for you. Everybody here is for you. Like, don't let them down. Don't use it as pressure that is unnecessary. I've seen, people that they before they ever get to the rodeo, there's so much added unnecessary pressure that's they can't even have faith in themselves.
Oh yeah.
And so I think from a young age, and I never had the sophomore slump. I had, a slump in my career there for a little while, and it was uh, I was concerned about the draw before I left. I forgot the mentality of it doesn't matter what other people scored on that horse. That horse has never felt me. That horse has never felt what my spurs coming up his neck. I forgot about that. I forgot. It's not that I forgot, but it's the distractions were heavier than my dreams. Uh, but I allowed that to happen. I allowed self pity. I allowed um, my body to tell me that I was hurt rather than sore. I'm not injured. I'm not hurt. I'm in pain, yeah, but I'm not gonna hurt anything if I continue to rodeo or if I get up in the morning and push myself hard and flush all that inflammation out. Like there was a period of time in my career where um, I worked so hard without a purpose that I got to the rodeo, and that's exactly what it looked like. Is I would spur up when the horse was going down. Like there was just I had no timing, and that's exactly what was going on in my life, though. Like, um, that my goals were spread out. They were not consistent. My days weren't consistent. I wasn't consistent with myself or the people that I dealt with every day, and um, it was a challenging few years, and it was a few years. I had a young family. I was broke, uh, injuries, and then uh, started dreaming of. I broke my arm, didn't qualify for the NFR, so I could maybe qualify for the American and be up for $1 million. And I dreamed of winning that $1 million, and I hate to say it, but it took $1 million dream to get me out of my slump. I had to have something that big um, from 2016, 17 to the winter of 2018. There was a year and a half, 2 years of where I couldn't do a damn thing right, and I started dreaming of $1 million and a big gray horse, and then I won the American, and then I still wasn't to the top of my game, and then I got kicked in the head by Killer B, and I hate to say it, but it took a horse kick me in the head to knock some sense into me to get focused again. And when I came back from that injury, um, I wasn't going to play around anymore. I wasn't going to go to these rodeos without a purpose. And so that I don't know if it would be a sophomore slump or what you would want to call that, but there is going to, in anybody's career, no matter the length of it, you will have a time in that era that is a very hard challenge, and it will weigh heavy on not only your career but who you are as an individual. And if I would have uh, put my ego to the side and used the humility that I do have when I was writing my goals down, and when I was having a hard time, and went back to the basics and sat on the spur board and held my feet for a minute and dreamed, as simple as that is, could have been a big fix for a lot of things.
Man,
Sorry
that's
for rambling on
no,
the sophomore
that is
slump.
so that is awesome because we talk about mental toughness a lot, and I think it's a very popular topic in today's world. But the majority of people, when they think about mental toughness, would say it's doing hard things. It's going to run 10 miles. It's doing burpees until you puke. It's sitting in an ice bath for 5 minutes. Like, yes, those are all hard things.
30
But
seconds.
yeah, yeah. I mean, that's hard too. I hate ice baths, so I'm just looking at it. It's a tough feat for me. But I talk a lot at the schools. We talk to these kids about being mentally tough. Also means not having that squirrel moment and having to go to the next thing you think is the next flashy thing that's gonna help you. Being mentally tough a lot of times means listening to your body, going back to the foundation, the fundamentals that got you there, and continuing to perfect those. Because what's happened a lot of times, like you said, when things aren't going right, we've gotten away, we've gotten distracted from what got us there. And yeah, it's everything in your life. It's from the preparation for the sport, it's your family, it's your friends, it's your business, who you surround yourself with. Somewhere in the down the line, we've gotten out of line. We've gotten mixed up, and we've got to get everything back in order. And it's really awesome to hear you talk about all of those things are contributing to you as a world champion, as an athlete, because it takes a team to get you there. You have to have that team to support you, to pump you up, to fire you up, to hold you accountable when you're not pumped up about life. Like, it's so important. And you've, by the sounds of it, and I know this, you've had an incredible team by your side the entire time. So that's it's just really cool to hear about mental toughness. Isn't just about doing hard shit. It's all a lot of times about going back to the fundamentals and doing the things you don't want to do, or the things you don't think are cool enough or flashy enough, because in the end, that's what gets you to be the best at whatever you want to do, is mastering those fundamentals. So if a 6-time world champion can be back on the spurboard his entire career, anyone listening that's you guys haven't won 6 world titles, you should probably be on your spurboard. And
Hey,
if you have.
so my last rodeo was 15 miles down the road, and the last thing I did before I left the house was spur that spurboard 10 times. Like, I mean,
Yeah, dude,
it was.
it's
That's a
that's
statement I
awesome.
should say about the spurboard.
Yeah, like that's huge. That's absolutely huge.
So
We get to those schools a lot of times and we ask kids, when's the last time you've been on a spurboard? And some kids, it's been months. It's like, holy smokes, no wonder we are where we are,
Yeah, they don't have them as much anymore. Everybody wants to ride a machine because it's so much more fun, to ride a link weaver. And I'm with you guys in that, I always say those things are great tools to help you. But I mean, the bread and butter, the meat and potatoes of riding bucking horses is the spur board. You can every once in a while go check those things on a bucking machine. But yeah, it's amazing to me how many kids don't have a spur board, know how to build a spur board, or utilize them like they should. So
Mhm.
it's pretty crazy.
It is.
it is. It's and two, the Linka Weaver, any bucking machine, in my opinion, they're a great tool to have, but it's not for getting better. It's not for critiquing your style. It's not for learning to turn your toes out. It's not learning to lift. Um, the more that you ride a bucking machine, the more that you're going to ride like a machine. And if a
Mhm.
horse steps forward or
Mhm.
makes a move, you're going to be out of shape. But
Mm.
if you stick to your spur board, it doesn't matter what they do. They can jump over the moon. You're going to beat them to the ground and have a hold of them and have leg in them and be lifting properly.
Yep.
Mm.
And I like that you say that, Logan. Like the buck machine, I use mine to pretty much harden up. Like if I wasn't rodeoing a lot toward the end of my career and I felt like that, my taint was soft or my
Yeah. You're
forearm
getting
was
right in shape, kind of.
getting beat up, yeah, like just get tough and get hard, calloused up. That's the
Mm.
only thing I use my buck machine for.
Mm.
Kind of much
Take note.
shit out of yourself before you go.
Yeah.
Oh, great, man. That's again, awesome info. Anyone listening, you guys need to be writing this stuff down because it's crucial. It's what's going to get you ahead. Hey, I want to talk about life after rodeo a little bit, because as we all know, this thing does come to an end eventually, and uh, our biggest goal as strength and conditioning coaches has been to make that time the athlete's decision and not having to walk away because of an injury. And that's something you got to do. You got to leave on your own terms, which I don't think you can ask for much more than that. What do you what do you do after this, man? Like, I know you've been working on things and we're going to talk about the thing that we just partnered up on with you, but did you start thinking about after rodeo before it ended, or did it end and you're like, "Oh shit, I got to figure this out. Like, I got to do something." I think that, it is who you are. You are a bareback rider for so long that a lot of athletes, a lot of guys have a hard time with that transition away from rodeo because that's all they've ever had. So what did you do to kind of set yourself up to not be in that boat and to have, I mean, I just saw you last week. You're still fired up about life. You're still, going head on into everything. Like what keeps you driving like that?
Man, my goals,
Yeah.
my discipline, and wanting to be better. I just, I don't know how to say it, but I want to accomplish a lot in life. I wanted to accomplish a lot in life before I was a bareback rider. The bareback ride, and I said that I was lucky to have the father that I did, and he was always very assertive on being ready to be done, and have your finances ready to where when you are done that you do have some options. Um, so I kind of knew, 30 is a pretty good career for a bareback rider. 35 is outstanding. And so, and I hate to say it, but when I was young and life was fast, from when I won my first 4 world titles, um, there was so much going on in my life that I didn't have the discipline I should have when it came to my finances and about life after rodeo. Um, but after that, I realized that it is coming faster than I want it to. That life happens really, really fast. Not only a bareback rider's career, but life. And so I started trying to educate myself on real estate. I bought a rental property and um, wanted to get better in real estate. I felt like there's a lot of opportunity to do something in that field after rodeo, and then that wasn't that interesting. And I have some family friends here that are prominent businessmen here, and been wanting to do sponsorship or something with them since I was uh, 15 years old. And this is a cool story. So I go over to these guys, and we partner on PWR PRO CBD. We start formulating some products, and I haven't signed the contract or the LLC just yet. I hadn't signed the LLC or anything like that, and yet we were formulating some products, and I'm excited about business. But the misconception of marijuana and CBD is a real thing, especially here in the state of Utah. And I didn't want to diminish the Feild name. The legacy that my dad started is really very, very important to me. And so I prayed on it and asked my brother, and he's like, "Dude, that's what people think. Don't worry about what people think. If the product is good and it helps people and you can partner with that family, don't be a dumbass. Like, this is an opportunity for you that you'll probably never ever get again in life." And so I was like, all right. And so I call him up and I said, "All right, guys, I'm going to go down to Austin. I'm going to come back and I'm going to sign the papers, and we're going to go to work on this business." And go down there and get kicked in the head. And that was, I got kicked. So I'll tell you that story. So I get kicked in the head, hit my head on the horse's hips, go numb, trying to hear the whistle, get jerked down, hit my rigging, break my eye socket, cheekbone, nasal cavity, upper and lower jaw, and then hit the ground. The horse kicks me on top of the head, cracks my skull right here, and causes a brain bleed. I I was trying to get up. I was trying to get up, and somebody had their hands on my shoulders like this, and like pulling me down. And they get me out of the stretcher, and get me out of the arena on the stretcher. And I talk them into let me off. My guys, I've been knocked out. I'm fine. Go in the sports medicine chair. I'm like, gosh, dang, feel this knot on my head. And Sean Reedy comes over and feels my knot, and his eyes get huge. He's like, "You got brain bleed." And he just jumps out of the trailer and starts yelling ambulance. I'm like, fuck, I guess oops, sorry. Didn't mean to say that. But
You're good.
I was like, dang, this is serious. This is kind of scary. And jump off and hit the ground. And when I jumped out of the trailer and hit the ground, I lost my vision. I started going blurry. I remember Caleb Bennett being there, and he had this look like looking down at me, like, what is going on? And then I started throwing up, and then they laid me down on the stretcher, and I start throwing it up. I can't see anything. I'm blind, just see white. Go to the hospital, puking. They say, I'm going to be there for a couple weeks. They scan my head. They throw me in this tube every hour, make sure my brain's not swelling where they got to take the cap off my head. Steph shows up the next morning. She has the CBD that we've been formulating. I take it, go right to sleep, slept for 8 hours, wake up, perfect vision, no headache, start taking the shit off of me. I'm still covered in puke, wearing my spandex that are squishing my willy off, and go get in the shower. And the nurses come in and, "Hey, you can't. No," they're panicking. You can't. You have a cracked skull. You can't be standing. I'm like, "I feel fine. No big deal. Like I'm great. I'm good to go." And so they scan my head, no swelling. They're like, "Okay, we're going to scan your head again tonight." 8 o'clock comes by. They scan my head. The next morning, they scan my brain. Nothing. No swelling. I'm feeling better. Uh, so my brother shows up there the second day, and we drive home in my truck and camper on day 3 from Austin. And then I came home, went straight to sleep, and then went over to the warehouse in May after sleeping for 2 full months and signed the contract. And that's when we formed PWR PRO. And the testimony of CBD that I have was formed right when we were forming the product, and it speaks for itself. It's an awesome product. I'm super glad that you and I can partner up on this. It's it's fun to compete against you in the bareback ride, and especially your brother, as long as he had done it, and being around each other, and now to be able to do business together is something that I thoroughly enjoy, and I look forward to what the future holds for us in this little endeavor.
Yeah, me too, man. I appreciate that. We're fired up, and I think that's, dude. To hear that story, I had never heard that before. I'd never heard that, how that all came to be. That is so neat, and I can attest too, man. I had taken the tincture for when you first came out with it, but it'd been man, it's probably been about a year and a half since I've had any of it. But the lotion I have been saving, I still have the original bottle in my bathroom, bro. Like the very first ones, and I've been just like trying to fish it all out of there, and I didn't have any left. But that I have a Whoop, so it tracks all of my, my body analytics, and I have been taking that tincture since I got home, and my resting heart rate has been anywhere from 4 to 8 beats lower than normal every single night since I've been home, just taking that, which is, I'm gonna keep testing it, but I'm thinking, just, if it's an up and down thing, it'd be like one night it will be, one night it won't, but every single night it's been lower. And just taking 2 full droppers of that, and I've been sleeping like a rock, dude. My REM, my deep sleep has been up 45 minutes to an hour, which is awesome when we start talking about recovery. So CBD, this product is an incredible recovery tool, and it's something just to add to the regimen if you are going through things like, lots of inflammation, any kind of brain fog, things like that. It can help with, and then that warming lotion, I absolutely love. Everyone's heard of ice shot, you've heard of whatever, but there is nothing like this that you can put on that works instantly and legit takes any kind of twinge or pain that you have is gone when you put that on. So it's really cool. I did a little promo for it before the show. So they have everyone has the discount code. Everyone knows where to go get it. So y'all check it out. If any listeners have questions about it, please shoot us a message. We'd love to answer any questions you have about the tinctures and the warming lotion. And I know there's a lot of exciting things to be coming in the future. So y'all be on the lookout for that uh, with this Power Pro and Champion Living collaboration. Case, thank you so much
Yeah, I'm
for
looking
coming on the show
forward to
today,
that.
buddy.
Heck yeah, thanks for having me. I respect what you guys are doing, and you've made a splash in the industry, and you're making rough stock riders better, and hats off to you guys. It's a sport that I'm very proud of, and I love it tremendously, and to see you guys doing what you're doing, and trying to help people and make people better is something that's very appreciated from me and the people that I'm surrounded by. It's a neat thing you guys are doing.
Thanks, man. We really appreciate it. Guys, until next time,
You betcha.
catch you later.